Hi there! In this video series, I would like to share the things that I've learned about Pulp while creating my first Playdate game, Magic Castle. If you're already familiar with Pulp's basics and would like to learn more techniques, then you're in the right place. Today, I would like to talk about importing assets. The Pulp editor is great for creating them, but let's say you want to import a photo or a sprite created in more advanced software. Let's get right into it. It may sound a bit counterintuitive, but first I'm going to show you how to export your tiles. In the Room tab, select the layer that you want to export. It will contain all of the tiles in that layer. And then in the Game tab, in the Assets section, click Export in the Just Tiles option. You will be redirected back to the Room tab and a prompt will show up. Choose the current layer option and hit export. In our default download location, we have now a zip file called Pulp Tiles, and after we extract it, we see all of the exported tiles. This is the crucial part because now we basically have a list of requirements for the tiles we want to import in the future. After analyzing the files, we can confidently say that we need a black and white PNG file that has a very specific naming convention for the file name. And just to quickly demonstrate that importing works, I will now export a single tile. Then I will remove it from the editor. And finally, I will import it back. As you can see, I've got my tile back. Now let's dive a bit deeper and break down the name of the file. The underlined part has two uses. Everything that is underlined will become the name of the tile in the Pulp editor. The layer sprites part basically tells into which location we want to put our tiles into. The count is about the amount of tiles that we want to import. And then the table dash 8 part is necessary for the import to work in the first place. It is mandatory to include that part for every single PNG that we want to import. Otherwise, it will not work. Two other things to mention. If your tile in the Pulp editor has additional frames, then try to export it and see what the file name looks like. It will be even longer because it will have to reflect that kind of information. And the other thing is that if you just use example image table 8-8.png, it will work, but the image will end up in the world layer. Now let's do something cool and import a real-life photo. In this case, my old family cat. It's in color, so we need to modify the picture for a 1-bit screen. And for this, I'm going to use a dithering tool that somebody else made. I will put a link to that tool in the description of this video. Once you select the image, it's going to land here and already be processed a little bit. I have played with those three sliders to achieve the exact effect that I wanted. You can play around with exposure and brightness and contrast and find the settings that will suit you. Important to remember is to tick off the simulate display option because we need our image to be black and white. And also it's important to remember that the resolution of the Playdate screen for Pulp is in this case 200 by 120. So let's change those values. All right, and then once we download the dither image, we can actually use it and import it. I am ready now to import my assets. I have to go to the Game tab, and in the Assets section, I click on Import for just tiles. Then I go over to my folder, and as you can see, I have renamed the file to be familycat-table-8-8.png, which means that I can now import it and it will land in the world layer of the tiles. So let's do that. Now if we check the world layer, we see that we now have a ton of tiles. And now you have to place them. And placing them onto a room is quite time consuming, especially if you have a lot of assets. The way that I do it, I find the starting tile, which is family cat 1 in this case, and I click on it. I then click on the position of that tile, which is right here. That's the starting coordinates. Then I move my mouse to the next tile and hit the right arrow key on the keyboard. And this is going to take a while, so let me speed up this part. All right, looks great. Just for your information, it took me about 5 minutes to finish this. Some people will do it a bit faster, some people will do it a bit slower. It's a very manual process, so it's easy to make a mistake along the way. I guess you could automate it with a macro, because you're essentially just moving your mouse to the next position and then doing the same thing over and over again. That might be worthwhile, especially if you have a bunch of rooms and full screen images that you want to implement, like a dozen of them, or even more. But if it's just one or two, I think it's okay to just do it manually. I think there are two common issues that you might expect when importing assets. The first one is that the sprites are not importing at all. And the second one is that they are importing, but they look strange. If they look strange after the import, then make sure that your image is actually using true black and true white for colors. Even a slightly brighter shade of black will not work. And if the tiles are not importing at all, then check if you named your file correctly, if it's a PNG file, and of course check the colors. My main issue with this technique is that you create a lot of redundant assets. As you see in the cat image, there's quite a few tiles that are pure black, but since we have imported them as one big image separated into smaller tiles, they are each treated uniquely and separately. This can become an issue for performance, especially if you have a ton of rooms with lots of imported assets. I will make a separate video about optimizing performance for this kind of scenario. I do have to say that in the game that I've made, it is slightly problematic that I've got a ton of unique tiles, and it is a bit problematic, not because of the performance in game, but because saving the game, making any changes, takes way longer than it does for a small tutorial project like this one. So keep that in mind, and like I said, I will make a separate video about optimizing performance. That's all in today's video. See you in the next one.